Welcome back to a timey-wimey pod where we watch every episode of Doctor Who from 2005 onwards. My name's Rebecca.
I'm Haley.
And today we are discussing Series 2, Episode 10, Love and Monsters.
Yes, we are. This is going to be an interesting one to discuss because if you are familiar with Love and Monsters, you know it is regarded as one of the most hated Doctor Who episodes of the new series.
Though, to be fair, I feel like back in the day people really hated it, but in the past couple years I've seen way more defenders. And
Interesting.
watching it, this was only my third time ever watching it, and I get it. I get why people like it.
Oh, I definitely get why people like it. And I also understand why people don't like it very much.
Oh, yeah, totally. Are you ready for some fantastic facts?
Yes, I am.
This episode aired June 17th, 2006. It was written by Russell T. Davies and directed by Dan Zeff, and this is the only episode he ever directed. The working title was I Love the Doctor.
Okay. It would have made more sense if the working title was like Linda or something.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't go with that. I think The Love and Monsters
Same.
is a pretty good title. It gives like Dot
Yeah.
and Bubble vibes. I don't know.
It does. You're right.
The Abzorbaloff was designed by a 9-year-old fan of the show who won a contest.
Yes, and I've known about this for probably since I've watched the episode for the first time. I've known about it for a long time. And I just want to say right here, right now, that the child who's now no longer a child because it's been many years since 2006 has received a lot of hate from this episode. And while I have my criticisms at least, it's never going to be directed at this kid.
Yeah. It's a pretty, for a 9-year-old, pretty good design. The drawing that he submitted is on Wikipedia, and it's like, that's pretty good for a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I didn't write down his name, but he made a YouTube video about the experience a few years ago, and he had a lot of nice things to say. So go check it out. My last fantastic fact is that in early drafts of the script, Elton would have been witness to even more Doctor Who historic events. His third birthday party would have been evacuated due to a Dalek invasion, referencing Remembrance of the Daleks. His mom would have been killed by a plastic daffodil, referencing the Terror of the Autons. And he would have seen the Loch Ness Monster in Terror of the Zygons.
That's a bummer. That kind of would have been fun to reference classic Who too.
Definitely. Okay, I think we should start by giving some overall thoughts on the episode.
I agree with you, but before we get into our overall thoughts on this episode, I just want to say in our last podcast episode, The Satan Pit, we left off where Tin basically confessed that he loves Rose, even though he didn't confess it to her. And I just wanted to mention that again because we're running out of time to mention it.
We're running out of time. That is probably one of my main critiques of this episode. It's just that, we only were given so many 10 Rose episodes. And why did we have to spend an episode away from them? Like, I just want to keep hanging out with them. And they had to do it because of scheduling. And I think they actually filmed this kind of around the same time they were filming the Satan Pit. And obviously, they just couldn't have David and Billy in two places at once. They needed another episode. So it makes sense. And we've seen them do this very recently in episodes like 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble, but I just would rather have more 10 Rose.
Oh, I completely agree with you, and that's also one of my main critiques from this episode is there's just very little time left of 10 Rose. But going into my overall thoughts on this episode, the first few times I watched this episode, I was a fan of certain parts, but overall didn't like the episode. Wasn't a fave. It's one I would always skip over on rewatches.
Me too.
And I would say that still kind of is the same. There's aspects of this episode, which I'll get more into, that I do enjoy and that I really like the concept of, but I still feel should have been executed better than they were.
Yeah, that's totally fair. For me, this was like my third time ever watching this episode. I usually skip it on rewatches, but obviously we had to watch it for the podcast, and I probably
Hmm.
appreciated it more this we watched than I ever have before. I'm a little older. I can take a step back. If we're comparing it against other Doctor and Companion light episodes, it's probably at the bottom.
Oh,
But I
definitely.
yeah, but I still really enjoyed watching this. I love everything with Jackie. The little bits we see of Rose at the end are really great. And Elton's a fun guy to follow along. I like the home video aspect of the story. I think that was really unique and a cool story device. And I like everything with Ursula up until the end. But we'll get there later.
Yeah, I really like Linda, like the whole concept of Linda. It makes so much sense that there's
Hmm.
people who have noticed the Doctor at different points in their lives when they've encountered them, and it makes sense that they like would form a group about this and try to figure out who he is. I mean, we had Clive in series 1, episode 1, Rose, who unfortunately was killed off by the Autons, which he deserves
Rest in
so much
peace.
better. Rest in peace, Icon. He would have been amazing in this episode, and he would have raised the bar.
No, it would have been
um
so fun if he was here. But then
yeah,
he probably would have gotten absorbed. So maybe
you're
it's for the
right.
best.
Maybe it is for the best. Maybe death by Auton is better than death by this
Yeah, I kind of think
monster.
so.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But anyways, yeah, I like Linda. I like Elton. I love the video camera, like whole aspect of this. I think that aged really well, honestly. It gives a very like early YouTube video kind of feel that would be
Totally.
posted.
Totally. Everything with Linda makes me really sad. Like, they're
Yeah.
so happy. They're like such a cute little group, all hanging out, playing music, and then slowly they just start getting killed by the Abzorbaloff and absorbed. In the end, like, Elton's really the only one left, and it's really sad.
It is really sad, especially when we learn at the end that Elton's mom died and the doctor
Hmm.
wasn't quick enough to save her, which is kind of crazy. So it's just super sad. And the way Ursula ends up at the end is sad for Elton. And he really went through it in this episode.
Hmm.
I do have a question though
Okay.
for Linda. Actually, it's not a question, it's just a statement. They were kind of dumb because
No, they were
Victor
dumb.
Victor just comes in obviously shady and suspicious because he's just like latching onto the doctor and like shows them this video he took of the doctor and Rose going into the TARDIS, and he's like demanding them to do things for him, and he's so intense about it and they just don't ask questions.
No, this episode needed a scene in which we understand why they want to work with Victor, or a scene where
Yeah.
Victor is like, we gotta do that. Like, he's motivating, he gives a great speech, and he convinces them. Because I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, y'all aren't having fun. Y'all don't really care that much about finding the doctor. And it was just like, why are you doing this? And why, like, this man is so obviously sus, and there's no questions are being asked, like nothing. And he's not nice, he's not friendly. It's kind of crazy. They are a little dumb.
Yeah, they're really dumb. Especially, they got into a groove where they were becoming friends. They started a
Hmm.
band, they were getting closer, and it was so sweet. Then Victor just comes in and they're willing to give up that all of that easily without pushing back. It took way too long for someone to push back. Like Elton literally waited
Totally.
until the last possible second. So
Literally.
so I feel like that could whole thing should have been written better. And that's what I
Hmm.
think wasn't as fleshed out as it could have been. I think there should have been more conflict between Victor and Linda and just questions instead of this random
Yeah.
guy just storming in telling them what to do.
Yeah, or make Victor like a different kind of character, like have him come in like unsuspecting, a little sweet, a little nice, and then
Mm-hmm.
they don't know, oh my gosh, she's the Abzorbaloff.
Yeah.
I have to mention Bliss is played by Catherine Drysdale, another Bridgerton actress. So add
Oh,
her to the
really?
list. She plays the modiste in Bridgerton.
Interesting. I feel like our diagram is growing to include Bridgerton, Doctor Who, Sherlock, and Broadchurch, just all combined in terms of actors, directors, and writers.
Yeah. The Venn diagram between all those things is slowly like one big circle.
For real.
I love the scene in the opening where we see Rose and the Doctor and the little Scooby Doo homage we get
Yes.
of them running across all the doors. As a kid who really, really loves Scooby Doo, that little
Mm-hmm.
homage makes me really happy.
Oh, it makes me so happy too. And I love how they're bickering while chasing the alien. And it's a great scene.
hmm
I also really love the montage that's shown of Elton
Yes.
witnessing all the events. So, like when he was little, seeing the doctor in his house, and then the Autons and Rose, and then the Sycorax ship from the Christmas invasion, the Slitheen crashing a spaceship into Big Ben. I really enjoy like that POV aspect, and I think that's really fun.
I really love that too. This is something I really appreciate about the first RTD era is that the world was very self-contained and they acknowledged things that happened, and
Mm-hmm.
the characters in the world know what's going on, like that aliens are in the world. And then later that kind of stopped in the Moffat era, like Clara doesn't know about the Daleks. Bill doesn't know about the Daleks. Like these characters don't remember or talk about things that we see in the first era, which is fine. Like you don't always have to constantly reference the past. I don't expect that. But I really appreciate that RTD does. And it just makes the world feel more real and the stakes a little more high. So I just really appreciate that. I want to talk about Linda a little bit more and all the characters we meet because they're
Mm-hmm.
so sweet.
They
First, we have
are.
Bridget, who her story is so sad. She's comes to London every week to try to find her daughter, and the little glimpse of a potential romance we see between her and Mr. Skinner, so
Mm.
cute. And like these people were really, they were so close and they had this great thing, and it was really destroyed, and it's so sad. And Bliss, like she was just so sweet. And Ursula and Elton, they're so sweet. Like I love later on in the episode when Elton realizes he likes Ursula and we see the little like flashbacks and their little like romantic montage. It's so cute. We don't really get to know why the other characters have connections to the Doctor. Like we know Elton
Yeah.
saw him, but like what is Ursula and Mr. Skinner and Bridget's connections?
Well, I think Ursula talked about though to Elton that she encountered the doctor. I'm pretty sure because
Oh,
she was the one who told Elton that the doctor's called the doctor.
you're right. She like photographed him on Christmas or something.
Yeah. The other ones though, I agree. I'm not sure. I wish that kind of had more of a background.
Me too.
Linda standing for London Investigative in Detective Agency is just really great and very camp.
It's so camp. I love it. And I love how like it started off them talking about the Doctor, and then slowly Bridget was bringing them food, and then they were like
Yeah.
reading Mr. Skinner's book and just talking, and then they became a little band, and everything's great and fun. And then Victor Kennedy shows up.
And he just like destroys everything. And like
hmm
he forces them all to learn all of these things. And basically, it feels like a classroom setting, if I'm being honest with you.
yeah.
Like, it's really intense. Like, he kind of threatens at one point to, like, mess up Elton.
Which I love when Ursula steps up to him and yells at
Mm-hmm.
him. Like, that's such a good moment. They all should have left right then and there.
They really should have, because Victor literally almost came to blows with Elton because he was like, "You encountered the doctor and you did nothing. How dare you?" And then,
Hmm.
Ursula was like, "If you touch him, I'm going to hit you with this cane," which, like, by the way, Victor's whole thing was that, like, he couldn't touch anyone because he had really bad eczema.
Yeah.
But the most interesting part that I've never noticed before, and it's probably because I skipped this up, like I usually skip this episode,
Hmm.
Victor has information of the Doctor and Rose from Torchwood files,
Hmm.
but he only has a few pictures of Rose because something happened to the files called the Bad Wolf virus.
Yep. This was also my first time noticing this. I don't know how. Um
Same.
we have to talk about this. So, what do you think this means? Did the bad wolf and those brief moments like corrupt these files?
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I kind of think that's what happened. So then this episode, we get to see the queen herself, Jackie Tyler. I love how Elton goes on this big speech, we have to find this one girl in all of London, search high and low. And the first person he asks is like, "Oh yeah, that's Rose Tyler. That's how famous she is." She's that girl. Everyone knows her. Everyone knows Jackie. I love how the woman is like, they're a bit weird, but
That's my favorite part, honestly. And I love he also goes into like another big speech about how he has to do all of these things to try to get Jackie's attention and be able to go into her flat. And she's the one basically inviting him over and bringing him into her life. And it's just so funny.
it's so funny. I love seeing Jackie's life, without Rose, especially now that Mickey's gone too. She's really lonely, and it's really sad.
Mhm. She even mentions Mickey that he used to
Hmm.
come around and help her fix things because her washer and dryer weren't working. And she's like, he's gone now. And
I
it's just
know.
like a sad reminder that, like, that's one less person for Jackie. And I really like in this episode how they focused on her just hurting because her daughter is
Hmm.
out there traveling the world and she's left behind. And it's not necessarily that she's mad or like she wants to be with Rose and the doctor traveling, but it's more of like she's a mom. She wants to know her kid is safe no matter
Yeah.
what. And she knows the dangers that it involves. And she also knows that there's not a whole ton left for her at home. So I think that's like one thing they did really well in this episode.
Hmm. Definitely. I kind of like forgot for a second that Mickey was gone until she mentions it. I'm
Same.
like, oh yeah, he's in another universe.
No big deal. He's just hanging out in a parallel world that no one can
Yeah.
travel to ever again, allegedly.
But she's so cute at the laundromat. I love how she's just talking to him, and that whole scene, he's thinking, okay, step one, step two, like, I gotta like infiltrate. And she's just like, here we are, strangers, and I'm flashing you my knickers. Like, it's so funny.
And Elton also mentions that he's getting called by Jackie all the time to fix things all the time because things keep breaking. And I'm just like, Elton, she obviously wants you there.
Hmm. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, though, on the scene where Jackie and Elton appear that they're going to have a moment, I guess you would say? Because for me, that's a really cringy scene. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it so is. But I think it really makes sense when you watch the next scene and after Rose calls Jackie, and you just realize how Jackie even says it, like, she's so worried, she just kind of like goes crazy. And she snaps out of it and she's like, "Put on your clothes, like, go home. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is silly." But she's just so worried about Rose, and she's lonely. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't have anyone else, and she's just really going through it.
She is. And It's at this moment that Elton has this realization that he actually really likes Ursula, not Jackie at
Hmm.
all. But
Well,
he
she
does
says
want to cheer,
he likes Jackie, but like as a friend.
yeah, as a friend. But he does want to like cheer up Jackie because he does genuinely
Hmm.
feel bad and you can tell. And so he's like, I'm going to go get a pizza and then I'll be back.
Yeah, I
But
know that
when
was
he
really
gets,
sweet.
it was very sweet. But when he gets back, Jackie's like, I was thinking that man is so nice. I'll just pay for a pizza for a change. So I went in her
Hmm.
coat pocket and I found this. And she pulls the picture out of Rose and she is mad. She is so
Oh,
upset.
this scene is so good. Low-key one of her best scenes on the show. She's such a badass in this moment. It's like, oh yeah, Rose Tyler is your daughter. Like, let us not forget where she got it
Mm-hmm.
from. I love how she confronts him, and when Elton's like, well, I'm not going after her. Like, it's not like that. And she's like, yeah, I know. Like, I figured that out. And I love when she says that she'll protect them both until the end of her life. Like, it's just so protective mother-in-law vibes. I love it so much. Like, her relationship with the doctor has really evolved over time. Like, she really hated him,
Mm-hmm.
and now she cares for him because she knows how important he is to Rose and that they're kind of a package deal now.
Yeah, I love this scene for all of those reasons as well. It's just a great Jackie scene and you can see the hurt that like the whole thing with Elton wasn't genuine. Like it wasn't for her.
Mhm.
It was for the doctor and she just kind of you can tell she feels gypped by that.
Yeah, it's really sad. And she looks great, but
Yeah.
your heart breaks for her. And then we see Elton go back to the group and finally someone confronts Victor Kennedy and he stands up to him and I love when he's talking to Ursula and Mr. Skinner and he's like, "We're going to go." And Ursula, "We're going to go out to dinner." And blah 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 cuz we like each other. Like it's such a great moment for him. And I'm like, yeah, like leave, get out. And they still don't realize like something bad happened to Bridget and Bliss. Like they just think that they kind of left because they were done with the group and done with Mr. Kennedy. But yeah, and then it's just so annoying when Mr. Skinner decides to like hang back so he can get Bridget's contact information and you understand but it's like no, just leave.
Yeah, we're reaching the point in the episode where I honestly have nothing but criticisms. So,
Mm.
okay, here's my thing. They were told that Bliss just randomly popped off to get married all of a sudden. Like, that makes
Yeah.
zero sense. Why didn't they question that? Bridget isn't answering her phone, but Victor's like, hey, Mr. Skinner, if you stay behind while Elton and Ursula go off, like, I'll give you some phone numbers I have of hers. And it's just like, none of them are asking questions. And all of them are like, okay, why aren't they suspecting this obviously shady guy? And
No.
then as Ursula and Elton are walking out, in the background, you literally hear Mr. Skinner scream and they
Yeah.
act like they don't hear it. They were in La La Land or something. And when Ursula goes back for her phone and Elton comes with her, that's when they finally discover the Abzorbaloff. But I'm just,
Hmm.
why did it take so long for them to, like, they didn't even suspect anything?
Yeah, it takes them to this point to realize what's going on. Like they just are accept that Bridget and Bliss would just disappear like that.
Yeah. And now I want to talk about the Abzorbaloff itself, the design.
Hmm.
Again, no hate whatsoever at the kid who designed the Absorbaloff. Like, I
No.
have no malice towards him. And so when I say this, I'm not trying to be mean, okay? This is just how I feel. The design and like the faces being absorbed has always disgusted me. It's gross.
Oh, it is kind of gross. Like I hate to look at it.
I don't like it. I don't like how it looks. I think the concept of it was better than the execution. The execution just
Hmm.
fell. It didn't even fall flat. It just fell. Like it just was not done well. And I don't like looking at all the faces in the Absorbaloff. Like it's just ugh. Mm-mm.
Yeah, totally. And like hearing and seeing Ursula and Bridget and Mr.
Oh
Skinner's
my gosh.
faces, it's a lot.
It's so much. And then at the end, when Ursula's like, guys, start pulling. And all of the faces start pulling so that the Abzorbaloff like disintegrates and starts being absorbed by the ground. It's just like that whole visual I hate. I'm sorry. I can't
Yeah, me
stand it.
too. No, it's gross. Though the scene where Ursula's getting absorbed is really sad.
Oh, it's so sad, especially because Elton is so upset. And when that scene is happening, what happened just right before is the Dr. and Rose came, the doctor landed the TARDIS,
Mm-hmm.
and Tin just says, someone would like to have a word with you. And Rose comes barreling out of the TARDIS at Elton, being like, you upset my mom. No one upsets my mom. And it's just such an iconic
So
moment from
iconic.
Rose. Her
So
braids,
iconic.
I
The
love them.
braids.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah,
it's so
so
iconic for both of them. I love that the doctor would do that for Rose, track this person
mm-hmm.
down that hurt Jackie and just let her go after him. Such a good moment.
It is a good moment. But the reason why I brought that scene up now was because we were talking about Ursula being absorbed, dissolved, and even though Rose is really cross at Elton, she comforts him anyways, and I just love that.
She's so sweet. Like, Rose Tyler is just so human and sweet, and she can't help but, comfort someone when they're down bad or, be there for someone going through it. And you just gotta love her for that. It's like how we've seen her in Dalek, defend the Dalek, and last week in
Yeah,
Satan Pit, like defend Toby. She's always on the defense, and at times it's like maybe pick your battles, but you got to respect her for it.
absolutely. But we find out that the Absorbaloff is from Clom, the twin planet of Rexicoricophalabatorius.
I never picked up before that Clom because we hear about
Same.
Clom later.
We do. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the origin of Clom?
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of shook at that.
Also, after he absorbs Mr. Skinner on the newspaper, he's reading about Mr. Saxon.
What?
Yeah.
I did not notice that at any.
Mhm.
What? Oh my gosh, I'm going to need to go back and watch that part.
Yeah, it's really hard to see, but it's there.
This is our second Saxon mention that I remember since
Wait,
the
when was
Christmas
her
invasion.
first? Oh,
Christmas
it
invasion.
is. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. I guess we shall find out who Mr. Saxon is
I
in the
wonder.
future.
Russell's mind, like setting things up, crazy.
So crazy.
And this is where we find out that the reason Elton saw the doctor in his house all those years ago when he was a kid is because his mom was killed by a living shadow, a elemental shade. Is that like related to the Vastra Narada?
No, that's my exact question. I was actually about to ask you that
I don't know.
because
Maybe
that
they're
sounds
like
so similar.
cousins. Yeah.
Or since we have Clom and Raxacoricophalabatorius, maybe it's like the Vastra Narada and like their twin, whatever that is.
Yeah. Or it's like the less strong and intense version of that.
I could see that, or like even an earlier version of it.
Totally.
Because it's not the Vastra Narada for sure, because we
No.
see Elton's mom drop dead, unfortunately.
Rest in peace, Queen.
Rest in peace, Queen. Sorry, side note, the whole like clip of her being recorded, it's giving such a it's giving a whole character who's about to be murdered in every show
Totally.
and every movie.
It's giving the dead wife home video in every movie.
Oh, absolutely. Guys, if you ever see a video of one of us like that, just know we're not alive anymore.
We're dead. Or husbands are grieving us. watching the home video, drinking some scotch.
But as I was saying, like, his mom isn't a skeleton because the Vashta they make people skeletons when they eat them, basically kill
They
them.
eat their flesh.
Yeah. So I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
Because this was before the Vashta even appeared. And if anyone listening is confused, just wait and see. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. The end. I really like the ending of this episode. And okay, actually, let me take that back.
I was about to correct you.
I like parts of the ending. I don't like the part where the doctor brings Ursula back to life so she can just be a slab of pavement. If that happened to me, just let me be dead. You think I want to be a face and of pavement and just that's it? And at least she's happy, but I'm like, where are these two now? What are Ursula and Elton doing in
like, what if they want to
2024?
break up? What if they want to break up?
What if he drops her?
Okay, can you imagine though? You're going into this random guy's house and all of a sudden you just see this slab with a face on it that's alive. Like that? What? What do you mean?
Yeah, it's weird. And like, is this like he's just gonna stay with her forever? This slab of cement that he can't go out with, that he can't hang out with, meet his friends? Like, it's weird. Like the doctor
It's so weird.
should have
Like,
just
is she
left Ursula alone.
I know, like, is she gonna die at the same time as Elton? Or like, what's gonna happen when he dies? Like, what's she gonna do? Is she gonna live forever? Like, what?
Yeah, because she says she'll never age. So is she immortal?
Yeah. Like, imagine her being the family heirloom passed down.
Yeah, we just have this like lady because someone in our family like liked her once and some guy did this to her. And now we just keep her around because she'll never die.
Poor Ursula. First of all, she didn't deserve to be absorbed. But besides that, she also didn't deserve to be a slab. Because what do you mean?
Do we have any theories about what these two are up to today?
Being menaces to society, because who carries around a slab? Like, I feel like he would take her on walks and people would be like, this man is insane. He's talking to the slab of concrete. We need to like not talk to this man.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Although I could see them being a famous TikTok couple, I'm not gonna lie.
Stop. They so would be. And people would be like, is this real or is this satire?
Oh, definitely.
Is this AI?
Oh my gosh, that would be actually really funny to watch on TikTok. Imagine the Q&As.
So funny. Yeah, so she's a slab of cement.
Oh my
well,
gosh.
Good luck to them. If I was Ursula, I'd be pissed. But
me too. I would instruct you to throw me on the ground and shatter and kill me.
Yeah, literally. Like, just let me be dead, please. But besides of that aspect of the ending, I really do like the last bits we hear from Elton. First, he talks about, how great things were with Linda and how he had this really great group of friends. And it just all kind of ended. And I love when he says, maybe that's what happens when you get close to the doctor, even for a second. And then he wonders what will happen to Jackie and Rose and when they're going to have to pay the price for being close to the doctor.
Yeah, I do like that moment as well. And I mean, taking it back to Clive in the first episode of the revival, the doctor brings destruction.
He has one constant companion.
Death.
Who is the star of the show for you?
For me, it has to be Elton. The man went through it. He went through a lot. Did. So I feel like he's the star of the episode. Is he the star of the episode for you or someone else?
Someone else. I have two contenders. First
Okay.
off, my girl Ursula. I love when she stands up to
Mm,
Victor Kennedy. Like, she's so smart and sweet, and my girl deserved better. My second contender is no other but the queen herself, Jackie Tyler. Like, she's so iconic. I
yes.
love when she confronts Elton and just talks about how she'll protect Rose and the doctor no matter what. Like, that is just such a good moment from her. One of her best. Like, I just want to go rewatch that scene right now. So, God, I love seeing Jackie, and I love seeing what her life is like while Rose is away.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
Those are two great choices.
What is the heart of this episode?
Um, the heart of this episode is the doctor and adventures with the doctor are wonderful and amazing, but be careful because if he touches you, he can bring destruction.
I agree. I think the heart of the story, heart of the episode is also that if a random guy shows up to your group hangout and starts bossing you around, just leave.
Yeah, please leave.
Please leave. You don't need to stay there.
No, you don't.
Do we have any reviews from the past?
Yes, we do. We have some reviews.
Oh, I'm ready.
This first review is from IMDb and is from the user Jim Lee Kicks Arse. And they wrote on June 24th, 2006, and they titled their review saying, "Ever wondered what rubbing your eyes in raw sewage would be like?" Their review starts off by saying, "Awful, terrible, ignorant, stupid. Not enough names out there to describe the horrors of this episode. It was like watching two trains colliding in slow motion and backwards. After watching some excellent episodes the previous weeks, you can only imagine the horror as this debacle unveiled itself before me. It was so over the top with the goofiness. Was it supposed to be Benny Hill? And if it was supposed to be funny, then they should have at least made it funny instead of insulting my intelligence. Whoever wrote this should apologize to the viewers, and we won't even mention the wonderful subject matter that is so fit for the children. Good job, BBC. Good job. You should all be ashamed."
Ugh. I think at the time, yeah, this was like the worst episode of the show so far. But now, a few years have passed. We've seen a lot more episodes, and there's worse ones than this.
There is. There is. Yes. Because in this episode, at least we have Tin and Rose with a cameo and Jackie Tyler.
Exactly.
This next review is also from IMDb by the user Jules T. Smith, and they wrote on June 20th, 2006, saying, "Okay, this episode was funny, had a great cast, some very funny moments, but does anyone else feel it was a complete waste of an episode? If there were 20 episodes a season, then fair enough. But when there are only 13, dot, dot, dot."
It's once again, you could have put that review for today, for the most recent season. And yeah, I agree. It's what we said earlier. If we had more episodes, sure. But especially knowing what's coming, I just want more Rose and Ten and more of their adventures.
Oh, 100%. And this same reviewer agrees because they continue and saying, "So surely to spend one of the episodes concentrating on a character we'll never see again is a bit pointless. I wanted more Rose. I think self-indulgent would be the best way to describe this episode. Just hope Russell pulls it out of the bag for the finale or there are going to be a lot of disappointed fans." There are a lot of disappointed fans, but not for the reasons one would have thought before watching the finale.
Yeah. We'll get to it.
All right. My last review is from the Gallifrey subreddit by the user MadAssassin5465, and this was written, it says 2 years ago, so I'm assuming in 2022. They said, "It's a strange one since you have the first half, which is unironically brilliant. You're introduced to Elton, who's an affable protagonist you can get behind. There's also a certain novelty in seeing the Doctor and Rose from a third, more normal perspective, which is heightened by the Scooby-Doo theatrics, which heighten the absurdity of the scene. Linda is brilliant and my favorite part of the episode. The characterization of its different members is stellar as their meetings become more and more chilled out. We also get a closer look at Jackie and what it feels like to get left behind. It's comedic but also laced with melancholy as we find out how alone Jackie is and how desperate she is to be around anybody. Great stuff. The second half of the episode revolves more around the Abzorbaloff, and this is where the episode does lose some points for its jarring change in tone, but still reaches a level of parody that is honestly hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing at Peter Kay's performance. It's so over the top that it definitely seems intentional, and to think this was a monster I used to be terrified of as a kid. And they finish by saying, as for its missteps, I think the episode overstayed its welcome and perhaps should have ended immediately after the reveal of his mom's death, which was surprisingly effective. Good episode, and they ranked it 8 out of 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. I wouldn't rate it that high.
No.
But I do agree with the people who say it's overhated. But I also don't disagree with the people that don't like this episode, mainly because I'm one of them. Like, I'm probably going to skip this in future rewatches.
I will probably skip it sometimes and then watch it some other times.
Yeah, probably same actually.
Yeah, I think really this rewatch gave me a new appreciation, so I might be willing to revisit again in the future, just for more Jackie, to be honest.
No, that's so valid.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back next week with Fear Her.
Yes, we will. And I'm feeling all kinds of emotions. But as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at timeyWimeyPod and email us anything and everything to
timeyWimeyPod@gmail.com. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.